Minister Jordan, thanks for being with us. The new moderate livelihood plan will regulate the number of traps, the region fished, and the stock, all negotiable with each community's needs, but all communities must fish during the commercial fishery season. So how is this different from a commercial fishery license?
Oh, this is extremely different from a commercial fishery license. What we're doing is working with communities to make sure they're able to fish a moderate livelihood. And I have to say that, you know, with any fishery, there's a lot more to it than a season that it's fished in. So, for example, with the moderate livelihood authorization, communities, First Nations communities can determine who's fishing the licenses. They can determine the amount of boats that are going out. They would be able to sell their catch. Currently, because it's not an authorized fishery, they are not able to do that, and this is going to make it possible for them to be able to sell their catch. That's something that we heard very loud and clear from First Nations, that they were frustrated because, you know, they would fish for a moderate livelihood, but because it wasn't an authorized fishery, they weren't able to sell it. So we're going to make that possible by moving forward with a plan for communities. It's a very flexible plan that they can adapt to their own circumstances in their own communities.
Despite what you've outlined there, the Nova Scotia Chiefs have rejected this plan and say fishing in commercial fishing season does not respect treaty rights. What's your reaction?
Well, I will say that what we're putting forward is an ability for First Nations to be able to fish this year. We want to make sure they're able to get out and exercise the moderate livelihood right this year. So that's one of the reasons why we are moving on this. Of course, you know, with regards to seasons, we are very concerned about conservation of species. We need to make sure that it's sustainable for the long term, and that's one of the reasons why, you know, we've said that within a season has to be when the moderate livelihood is fished. But the thing is that this is going to give First Nations the ability to go out this year. And that is something that's really important, because we want to make sure that we don't have a repeat of last year. We want to make sure that they're able to get on the water and exercise their moderate livelihood right and take advantage of a very lucrative fishery.
Well, Mi'kmaq Senator Dan Christmas says his and other parliamentarians' recommendations have fallen on deaf ears, and that he believes the government's on the wrong path for the moderate livelihood fishery, and that the conservation concerns just mentioned there are false. What's your response to that?
Well, I will say that, you know, I mean, when we had one or two bands who were interested in a moderate livelihood fishery, the conservation would have been a different thought. But when we have 35 who are interested in going out, we have to recognize the scalability of the fishery. We have to look at when people are fishing, and oftentimes what we've found is that it's at a time when lobster particularly are maybe molting, or they're growing, and they need that time to kind of rest and replenish the stock. You know, I mean, as the minister and even as First Nations, everybody wants to make sure that the stock is healthy for the long term. And, you know, I mean, that's why seasons exist, is to make sure that we're able to conserve a species and make sure that we're able to fish it for centuries and for generations to come.
Minister, APTN has uncovered government documents that the DFO suspected non-Indigenous fishermen were going to react in violence to the moderate livelihood fishery when it was launched last fall. As DFO Minister, how do you explain the lack of preparation for the violence that occurred?
You know, last year was a very difficult year. There's no question. We want to make sure that what my priority was last year was de-escalation and keeping people calm. And I will say there were over 20 charges laid last year in the incidents that had happened. This year, we're making sure that everyone stays safe as they go out on the water. We will have an increased CNP presence. We'll have an increased Coast Guard presence, and we'll have a RCMP as well, because, you know, everyone should be able to go to work safely. It doesn't matter who you are. And we want to make sure that people stay safe as they're able to go out and fish side by side this year.
Minister, we'll have to leave it there. Sure appreciate you taking some time for us here today, though.
Okay. Thank you. Have a good day.